So on my first drive to Philadelphia ever, I was in a car with my parents, and they were kind of upset. I was taking a job at AmeriCorps, so my mother, might be for service. So my stepmom was really upset because I was taking good taxpayer money from working people and people's jobs. And my dad was upset because I wasn't making enough money. And then, of course, not only was I at AmeriCorps, but I was working with immigrants. And the one thing my stepmother probably doesn't like more than taxes is people stealing people's jobs. My dad, of course, was upset by that because I wasn't making enough money. And so, I got into AmeriCorps and I got into working with immigrants, and one of my favorite days was Friday. And my favorite day on Friday was because it was clinic day. And on clinic day, basically it's the first time that a lot of newly arrived refugees get to go to the doctor. And I get to take them to the doctor, and it's really great. Usually, I go out there at like 12:30, and it's usually like two families, and one of the families will be there. They've been there since like 8 a.m. They got a little overzealous, and they were just like, oh, they're going to be late. And they're there at like 8 a.m., so they've been waiting on our couch for so long. And then the other family, they're like late, so it's like 12:30 and they haven't arrived. And oh my God, they show up like 15 minutes later because, like a lot of times they're from like rural areas, and their time is different. And they haven't learned that SEPTA takes like 3 hours to get everywhere. So finally everyone gets there, and I get to go out, and it's crazy because a lot of times this is like the first time that they've seen a doctor in a long time, like maybe like 5 or 10 years. So that thing that you always worry about, they don't have Google. So like the things like that lump on your elbow, they've been worrying about that shit for like 5 years. And I feel like, oh my gosh, this is the moment. And one of my favorite times is like I get to walk them to the clinic. That's where I get most interaction with them. And I'm walking them, and there's a lot of like combinations of like universal truths, but at the same time like cultural differences. Like I go up to them and they do like a little bow to me sometimes if they're from Bhutan or something. But then on the other hand, I have like girls come up to me, and little girls, and they're like, do we get shots? And I'm like, oh yes. I'm crying. It's awkward. That's not universal truth. Babies are adorable, and everyone knows it. So guys, I've like developed this tactic of taking pictures of really cute immigrant babies. I'll kind of like hold my phone on my chin and be like, yeah, we'll be leaving in about 5 minutes, and just take tons of pictures. And then I get like, oh man, they're so cute. So then we're walking, and I'm kind of like charading because they don't speak a lot of English, and I want to make sure that they get to the right place. They probably think I'm crazy. Like every time we pass a street, I like point up and I'm like, look, 9th Street. And they're just like, oh yeah, like, all right, oh. So I think what I'm looking at. And then like homeless people kind of like ask them for money, and they're like, oh, what do you mean? Like, this is confusing. No one speaks any English. Finally, I get to clinic. I get to check them in, which is always really great. And then I get to go back into the waiting room and kind of wait for them, because now it's in this situation where I'm hanging out in this kind of doctor's office. And it's a resident-run clinic. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but the way it works is, resident doctors go out, they see the clients that I've just brought in, and then they come back to the attendee, and they kind of present to the attendee. And I'm there because I'm going to be kind of taking all the referrals to the eye doctor, to the elbow lump doctor, and everything like that. And that would be taking them, so I'll be taking the attending. So I think this really, like, residents go out and then they see the patients, and then they come back into the attending, and I get this really personal moment where I get to hear like all of these stories about all of these people that they just unloaded onto this doctor, this poor resident doctor. He's like 20-something, and the stories are just crazy. And, I think about it, and I feel like a lot of people don't like immigrants, and they don't like refugees because they think that they've like cheated the system, and they think that they've kind of like stolen something. But when these doctors come back in and they're talking about these stories about people who have HIV from birth, and people who are survivors of torture, you really get to feel that it's them that's been stolen from.